This is the Old Guy Network.
Welcome back to the Old Guy Network. I'm the Old Guy, the OG Jay, and you know who you are. Well, it's another Tuesday, and it's a pretty nice morning out here. I hope it's great where you are, too. Last week on Tuesday, I did a shout-out to Alaska. And why Alaska? Well, because the mobile home that we rehabbed and sold, we sold to a nice lady from Alaska who's moving to Maine. And I thought, well, you know, it'd be kind of nice to tie those two things together and say hi to Alaska. So we did. Or I did. And I don't know why I keep saying we.
We are not amused.
Yeah. Anyway, I did that, and I thought, well, maybe I'll do a salute, if you will, to different places every week on every Tuesday. So why not, right? Got to have something to do, so why the heck not? So this week, I want to salute Bulls Gap, Tennessee. Now, there's a reason why I'm thinking about Bulls Gap, Tennessee. It is a place that I visited when I was in my 20s. My parents and I and my ex-girlfriend at the time, we all went to Oklahoma City. It was back in 1984. I was just a young guy then. And on the way there, we stopped at several places, but one of the places we stopped was Bulls Gap, Tennessee. Now, the reason why is because my father was a huge fan of the television show Hee Haw. Do you remember that back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s? I don't know. It was on for a long time. Starred Roy Clark, Buck Owens. I mean, there was a lot of country stars on there. It was a funny show, too. It was a really funny show. But there was one person in particular that my dad really liked on that show, and that was this guy here. This guy right over here, yeah. His name is Archie Campbell. Or it was Archie Campbell. He passed away, unfortunately, back in 1987, I believe, and he was just a funny man. He was a comedian from Bulls Gap, Tennessee. This guy was Jeff Foxworthy before there was a Jeff Foxworthy. I mean, seriously, he was a comedian before Jeff Foxworthy was born, and he was extremely funny. And my dad was a big fan, and on the show Hee Haw, Archie Campbell said many times he was from Bulls Gap, Tennessee. So when my dad planned out the trip to Oklahoma, back in those days we didn't have GPSs, so we had to plan out our trips. When he was planning it out, he saw that he could go right through Bulls Gap, Tennessee, and he wanted to do that just so he could say he was in the birthplace of Archie Campbell. Now, if you don't remember who Archie Campbell is, or you don't know who he is, here's just a quick clip of Archie Campbell on Hee Haw.
I've searched the world over and thought I found true love. You made another and you was gone.
Yeah, is it coming back to you now? Do you remember who he is? He was extremely funny. That was just a short clip because I can't play too much of it. That would be a copyright strike, and I don't need that kind of hassle from YouTube. So that's just a little taste of how funny this guy was. He did a hysterical bit about Snow White. No, it was not. What was it? Little Red Riding Hood and the Three Bears. Look it up on YouTube. I can't show it on here, but look it up. I'll leave a link in the description. You can take a look for yourself. He was an extremely talented guy. He really was. But getting back to the story of Bulls Gap, Tennessee. Now, we decided we were going to go to Bulls Gap, Tennessee, and we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know how big a town it was, how big a city it was. I've done some research, and at the time that we were there was just over 700 people living in that town. That's how small it was. There was only one motel there, and it was adjacent to a truck stop. I believe a pawn shop. I think there was a barber shop there too, and everything was all together. And I remember it not because of Archie Campbell, but I remember it because when we got there, we were very tired, very, very hungry, and we went over to the truck stop, which was right next door. And I believe that the whole thing was in a cul-de-sac, so it was all together. It was like the whole town was right there. But we went over to the truck stop, and there was nobody in there, but there was a sign said, seat yourself. So we did, and we waited, and this young lady came in, a wonderful young lady. I'd say she's probably, 17, 18, maybe 19 years old, and she had a rag in her hand. She was wiping her hands off, and she came up to us and said, I said, "Hi, all. I'd been here sooner. I apologize. I was with a gas customer." And then she put the rag back in her pocket and said, "What can I get you?" It was awesome. You know, she was taking care of everything. She was also the lady that was, taking care of the rooms. She cleaned the rooms at the hotel, the motel, and well, we asked her afterwards, if there was any place we could go, because we kind of wanted to see the town. We wanted to see just what was there. My dad was really interested in seeing the town. So at the time, the only thing that was really of any interest to anybody was the VFW. My dad was a member of the VFW, so he thought, well, that's great. We'll go to the VFW. Now, in this tiny little town, we found the VFW, and it was a pretty big VFW. I've been in some VFWs that were very, very small. This one was pretty large, and when we got in there had to be 100 people in there. Well, keep in mind, there's only 700 people in the town, so you've got, you got a tenth of the population right there. And everybody was behaving themselves. They were having a good time. There was some drinking. There was some dancing going on. They were talking with each other, and it was really cool to see it. It was like, a page out of history. What you imagine a small town in the South or in the Midwest to be, and it was that in itself was pretty good. But there was one guy in particular that kept going from table to table, entertaining everybody. And he eventually made it to our table, and my dad looked at him and said, "You look like Archie Campbell." And he said, "Well, I'm not Archie Campbell." He said, "But I am Archie Campbell's cousin." And it turned out he was. But I can't remember his name. So my dad was he was elated that he didn't get to meet Archie Campbell, but he did get to meet his cousin. And while they talked, you got to remember they're at the VFW, which means you have to be in a foreign war to be in the VFW. It's a Veterans of Foreign War organization. And they were both in the Air Force. And they talked about different places they were stationed. And they were both in Germany, not at the same time, but they both were in Germany. They were both in Vietnam. And then they both realized that they had been stationed at the same time in Iceland. And my dad says, "You were there and I can't remember the year." And he said, "Yeah, I was." And immediately my dad took a cocktail napkin out, and he took one from the table and took out his pen and started drawing the base where he was stationed. And they both went over and said, "Yeah, that's where the NCO club was, and this is where the mess hall was, and this is where the barracks were, and this is where my job was." And when they looked at the barracks, my dad says, "Well, this was the barracks I was in, and Archie Campbell's cousin was in the barracks right behind my dad," which meant they probably were in the mess hall at the same time. They were probably at the NCO club at the same time. And these guys were at the same place at the same time. And now years and years goes by, and a guy from Maine and another guy from Bulls Gap, Tennessee meet each other again after all that time. And that to me was just amazing. And that's when I realized the world is a very, very small place. That was just incredible. And I think about that every time something like that happens to me. I was in Florida once, and I was just there on vacation, and I saw somebody that I went to school with, many, many years later in Maine, at the same place that I was at. And when that happens to me, I think about Bulls Gap, Tennessee, because my dad taught me that no matter where you are, be decent to people, because you might run into them. No matter where you are in the world, you might run into them again. And it was a great night, and I remember everything very vividly, because it was a great town. I would like to go back there again. I've often said that someday I'd like to just sell my trailer, sell everything, just jump in the Corvette and drive across country. Maybe I'll do that someday, and I think I could make some really cool videos doing that. If I ever do that, I want to swear right now, I will pledge right now, if I ever get the chance to do that, first place I'm heading, Bulls Gap, Tennessee. So to all the good people of Bulls Gap, Tennessee, I salute you today. And I'm glad I got to visit your nice town, and I hope that I get to visit it again. Now, since then, the town has grown quite a bit. I think there's 2 motels here now, so I'd really like to go back and see that. There's a lot of stuff that you can do in Bulls Gap, Tennessee. Right now they have a population of approximately 738 people. So, it's growing. And again, I will leave a link in the description down below of Bulls Gap, Tennessee, and you can check it out for yourself. So that's it. Thank you, Bulls Gap, Tennessee. And if you're from that area, hey, leave a comment. Or if you know somebody from that area, leave a comment. Or if you just like the show Hee Haw and remember who Archie Campbell is. Yeah, I love to read comments. They're awesome. So that's going to do it today on this Tuesday, and our salute to Bulls Gap, Tennessee. So until next time, I hope you join me again. My name is Jay. You know me. I'm the OG. And I'm out.